Musibire muta, mwasibye mutya, amahoro, agandi, byaibo, habari gani, muraho, sangonini, kopango, odeo. For those of you who are wondering what that was, these are some of the various local greetings found in East Africa's diverse languages. Welcome to She Center, the female podcast, where I dive into the issues and experiences that affect women everywhere. I am your host, Resti Kansime, and I am passionate about creating a safe space for women to share their stories and triumphs. I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I would love for you to join our community and stay connected with us beyond this episode. You can find us on Instagram at _She Center _podcast, and follow us on Facebook at the She Center Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit that follow and like button on our social media to be part of the conversation. Hi everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of She Center, the female podcast. I am thrilled to have you here, especially the new listeners. Welcome, Karibu, and yay, welcome to the She Center community. And of course, a warm welcome back to the loyal listeners who have been with us on this journey from day one. Thank you so much for your love and support. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to apologize in advance for the audio quality on my end. Unfortunately, due to some technical issues, I cannot quite figure it out. It might not be as clear as usual, so thank you for your understanding and patience. Today, we have an inspiring guest. Her name is Arinda Brendah, who also happens to be my dear friend. Brendah is an area manager at the National Social Security Fund with over 9 years of experience. She is also affiliated with the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK, showcasing her dedication to continuous learning and professional growth. Brendah is also a dynamic leader with a talent for professional marketing and strategic leadership. She excels at building lasting relationships with clients and friends as well. She really invests a lot, but her professional life is mostly about B2B and B2C segments. But beyond her impressive professional achievements, Brendah is deeply passionate about fostering a love for reading amongst children. She has inspired me as well in this area. Together with her sister, she co-founded Lighting Bulbs Edutainment, a platform dedicated to cultivating a reading culture among the young ones. Talk about sustainability. In today's episode, Brendah will share her journey and answer the question, what happened to you? Just like every other guest. She reflects on her childhood, growing up in an extended family as a middle child, and how these experiences shaped her into the organized and driven person she is today. She also discusses her passion for books inspired by her teachers and her father, and how she balances her career with the challenges of working far from her family. Brendah and I met in high school, and I can personally attest to her character. She has constantly proven to be a reliable person with a golden heart, always willing to go an extra mile for others. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by Brendah's story. Let's dive into our conversation.
Brenda, how are
Hi,
you doing?
Resti. Good. How
How
are
are you?
you? Yeah.
I'm good. How is Bali? How is life?
Ballet is good. It's cool.
Mm,
Life is good. Pushing on,
mm.
doing what
Yeah,
we have
that's
to do.
good to know.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for making the time. I know you are a very, very busy woman. It has taken us a whole year to get here.
I'm
So thank you
embarrassed.
so much for making
Yeah.
the time, for honoring this. It shouldn't be. For me, I feel like the longer it takes for me to record someone, the more excited I am to hear their story, because I'm like, really, God, there must be a reason why this thing is not happening when I want it to happen. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited to hear your journey. And what's more exciting is because at least I have known you for quite some time. And I'm one person who likes to really analyze people. I'm like, "Oh, this person is probably like this because of this and this and this." And you always stood out to me from school. Like,
Oh,
your
really?
your calmness, you're friendly, you love books. Like I remember I was in literature class for like what 1 month and I quit. And
Yeah.
every time I see what you're doing right now and your love for books, I'm always like, should I have quit? Because sometimes I really struggle to finish a book, especially those that are like when I'm busy, you know. If I'm having a free time, I can read the whole book and finish it. But if
Yeah.
I'm like busy, the attention goes away so fast. I'm like, I should have maybe like pushed longer in the literature class, and maybe I would be in a better place. But let's not talk about that. I
Mm,
invited you to ask what happened to you because, um, like I'm very glad that you listened to the podcast. I know that every person, it's very easy to explain to people that I am passionate about this, I'm passionate about this if they know your story. And I feel like for people who should be interested in books, or people who are maybe the way you are, or people who look at you, some people who look at you because now you've become like, you know, a big deal. Hey, you're a big deal. Like you're really, really
Resty.
helping our kids. But you become like
Mhm.
it's a big deal. I was telling a friend I'm
Yeah.
going to talk to Brendah, and she was very excited about that. But I think it's because she's also your OG from primary. That's why.
Who is
But I was
that?
very excited. Brenda, she's also
Oh,
called
Brenda.
Brenda.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in finding out what happened to you, to letting people know what happened to you, because I'm speaking to different people and they do different things. But I haven't yet spoken to someone who is this. Okay, I did speak to Margot. I remember even asking if you guys know
Yeah.
each other because you guys are
Yeah.
almost doing the same thing. So yeah, please share about your childhood experiences and how you think it might have impacted the way that you are right now and how you see the world.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Resty, for
Mm,
inviting me. It has
mm,
been long overdue, but it has been something that was really close to my heart,
yeah.
especially when you reached out some time back. I think this has been a journey for you as well. When you asked me to
Mm.
write on your remind me what it's called, on
My favorite someone.
your favorite sermons, yeah. And I remember very well
Yeah.
the sermon I shared with you by Stephen
Yes.
Fatick. And for me, it
Yeah.
was speaking about what you do while you are in the waiting for your
Mm,
next,
mm.
for your next move or for your next
Yeah.
opportunity. And
Mm,
I had you at that time as like, okay. So when you invited me even to have the podcast
mm,
and come on your space to elevate a woman out there, it really
mm,
spoke it hit me hard.
mm,
Yes, life happened in between and we hadn't yet met, but today is the day that the Lord
It is a
has
day.
made. Yeah.
Amen.
So just to introduce myself to
Yes.
everybody, my name is
Mm,
Brenda
mm-hmm,
Arinda,
mm-hmm.
and I am Resty's OG. That's how we got to
Yes.
know each other. So
Yeah.
when you ask the question of what happened to me,
Mm,
for me, I wouldn't want to look at it like in a negative frame.
mm,
Like very good things happened to me and have
mm,
brought me to where I am today.
yeah. Mm,
If I reflect back on my childhood, I had such a beautiful childhood. My memories
mm,
there are so beautiful. I grew
mm,
up in our time, I would say, anyways, Africans, in a
mm,
extended family
mm,
for a bit, but mostly with my parents, both my parents who are still alive, I thank God for them, and my
mm,
siblings and my cousins.
mm,
And I think our childhood was really nice. Was really nice.
mm,
Our parents did their best. They excelled at it. They are role models. They set goals for us.
mm,
And one of the memories that I clearly have is how our parents taught us how to pray.
mm.
Church was non-negotiable. If
Yeah.
it's Sunday, you have to dress and we go to church. My
Mm,
mom is a very church-oriented person. She's in
mm,
Mothers Union. So for the
mm.
girls, when you reach like your teenage time, when you're now dressing yourself and choosing your clothes, she would first come and tell you to spin around just to look at your clothes before you go
First
to
bend.
church. Yeah, first bend, can you touch your toes? And so church was really non-negotiable. Even when you're at
Yeah.
uni, at
Mm,
campus,
to
because me, I
call.
was, yeah, she would call and say, we are on our way. The good thing is our home was on there. My hostel
was on their way to church and were in
They
between
would pick
home
you
and
up.
church, they would pick me up.
Oh,
So if
wow. They are
you
not.
go out the
Yeah.
night before, just know Sunday morning, you need to be ready to
Wow.
go to church. So church was something very profound, and for me, it's the best gift they gave me, to know
Yeah.
God and to love God. And that's the gift that I will give my children, and hopefully they'll pass it on to their children
Yeah.
and the generation
Wow.
to follow.
Yeah.
About my childhood, I have my siblings, I have brothers, I have sisters. And I think through them, I have seen life as well in their light. My elder brothers and so I have two elder brothers. I have an elder sister, and then I have a little sister who now is not too little, but I think it's well blended, that from all of us, we have learned a lot from each other and from their experiences. So from that arrangement, you can see that I am a middle child. And as a middle child, sometimes you have to, it's a unique position. You soak in from above, but also you have someone below you that you have to pour into. Until today, I feel like I'm such a linchpin in my home, in our family, because the older ones, especially in between my sisters, the older one pours into me, and I have to pour into the younger one. If there's anything that they need support on, I'm the middle one, so I will draw the balance and strike the balance. Even at home, I find myself being quite an organizer. I have a nickname, and they call me Katereza. Any
That one I
kapati,
can attest to
you
it.
can attest.
I can attest to it. I remember very well.
I will organize and imagine I enjoy it. I love it so much. Any event, any party, they know Brendah will have it organized in a certain type of way, or she knows the service providers, or she knows, like, you're just the linchpin, the pivot of, all these things
That's
around.
quite interesting, because I thought this is a firstborn thing. I was speaking to someone. I was speaking to Damali, and her episode is coming out before you. So by the time your episode comes out, like people would have listened to her story. And she said she's she's a structured person who always the one at home, everything has to be done. And she said that's because she's the firstborn at home, and she had to be the parent. So it's quite interesting that you have a bigger sister, and yet you also find yourself in that space.
In that space, yeah.
That's
I think each family is a bit different. I love Damali. I know that she's a sister. She's a big firstborn of girls. But also you realize, and I don't share my sister's story, but my sister has not been around for quite a bit. She left. She lives in London, so she has been away for 10 plus years. So I had to fit into that gap maybe. But even before, I felt like I was the linchpin. Yeah, I was the middle person.
Is your sister like that? Like, is she also like that, or
my elder sister? So my elder sister, I see her in a light of so much wisdom. So when I don't understand what's going on, she brings me back to sanity. And I think for many of us, so usually she's those people of when Ivas has said it, yeah, that's
everyone
it.
has,
like
yeah.
Because let's follow what she has said. Because she
yeah.
reads about it, she'll research. If it's an illness, she'll research, she'll read, she'll consult, then she'll give you, it's coming from an informed part of her mind or something.
Okay.
So she's those people.
That's cool.
Yeah. Then my little baby sister, she's just so mushy and my munchkin. So I feel like I owe her to she's like my firstborn, to just guide her and direct her.
On her.
Yeah. But yes, she's such a brave girl. So she gives me also a bit of brevity. I feel she really pours into me as well. So yeah,
that's
then my
cool.
brothers. Yeah. So I think
they're protectors.
They are my protectors. Yeah, definitely my protectors. Yeah. So I think that's how my childhood was. And maybe just to add a bit of what happened to me. So in that space, my dad providing and supporting us with school, my mom was such a go-getter up to today. So for me, I used to draw a lot to her because she used to do the impossible things. And I say, how are you doing all these things with all these children? And she had such a big, warm heart that she welcomed in so many other of our, cousins. Come in, take care of them. Come in, live with these ones. Let's support. Let's go visit these people. So she had such a big heart. She juggled a lot of things and was on that Resty, very successful. I think she's one of the most successful women I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a very good thing for a child to grow up seeing. Like, because
yeah,
some people are like, yeah, my mom is good here, but they don't do this. For you to grow up seeing that, it really empowers you as a child, a girl child. So I'm
yeah,
glad that you experienced that. Yeah.
yeah. She empowered me
Wow.
a lot, and her experiences just made me feel like it's actually possible. Because my dad had a formal
Mm,
job, my mom had a formal job for a bit, I think earlier in my
mm,
years, but later
mm,
went into business and she had never looked
mm,
back. Yeah. So
mm,
that's
mm,
how we grew up. And
mm.
yeah, I don't know what else would I add, Resty.
How was school? How was school? Let's talk about
So,
school for a bit. Cause
okay.
me, man, the time when we met, my school. I want to hear your perspective on how. Okay, cause I know like primary school. I don't know why for some reason I should have met you, but I didn't. Because I feel like
Yeah.
I met so many people from City Paris because my cousins were all going there. But I didn't really know much about your life in primary until we met like in the
Earlier.
later teens. How was school for you? Like how are your relationships at school? Because I could see how you were in high school, but I don't really know how it was before. But you must be the person who was just like, yeah, guys, let's just chill. Namaste. Peace
I
be with
must.
you. Have you always been like that calm person who is like this, or was there some time when you were like, no, 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 teenage girl, teenage life, let me rebel?
Resty, Resty. My school, I
Mm,
started off my kindergarten. Let me start for kindergarten because I love it.
mm,
I was
mm,
in Newfield Nursery School, which is at All Saints
mm.
Church, Nakasero. And my
Oh,
mom at that
wow.
time worked just below was it just below the street there? So, because I remember she would walk up and pick me,
Mm,
rather drop me. Then in the
mm.
afternoon, I would walk down with the gate guy,
Welcome.
I think. Yeah, walk to her office.
Mm,
Then we go home.
mm,
So for me, that grounded
mm.
me again with God because as they taught us, most of the songs were really,
Cool.
yeah, were
Yeah.
nursery, but also like praise
God.
and worship songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I was really,
Wow.
really grounded. Till today, my church, All Saints, Cathedral,
Mm,
All Saints
mm,
Church, Nakasero.
mm,
And went through that. Primary, I went for a bit to Kitante Primary School
mm,
for
mm,
I think 3 years until it turned into UPE. And because my dad was very, I think he got scared with the whole UPE arrangement and
mm,
moved me.
mm, mm.
But while I was in Kitante, they did something very, special. They moved my elder brother because my elder brother and elder sister were in Nakasero. So they moved my
Mm.
elder brother to come and be with me. And I think he was in P7 and just
Mm.
help me learn the whole life and not to be
What?
scared. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that's like my best memory with him. And I
Wow.
remember one day I lost my meal card. They used to do meal cards for food.
Mm,
So I reached
mm,
the line and I didn't have my meal card. So the guy chases me, the food man. So I
mm.
had to go to his class and say, my God, Eddie, help me. They have chased me and I'm hungry. And Bambi, he gave me his meal card and he didn't eat that day.
Oh,
I know.
lovely.
So
That's
it's
so
it's like a
sweet.
memory that I really,
Mm,
really treasure with him. But when
mm,
he finished, he left and they changed the school to UPE. So I
mm.
moved to City Parents. I think that's when
Yeah.
all those people. So City Parents had just broken off, I think, from
Mm,
Kampala Parents. So it was Vibe.
mm,
It was a
mm.
really, really nice school. And with the old campus, the
Yeah.
one at Old Kampala. So
Mm,
we
mm,
had, quite a lot of fun. I really made as well some really good friends there, some that are still
mm,
in my
mm.
life till
Yeah.
today. My
Mm,
school time there was really good. Same, I think, as the tradition. They brought my young sister to join me so that I could take care of her there. It was a
mm,
day school, but just to
mm,
have an extra eye
mm.
on somebody. And I remember
Yeah.
when she was in, I think, P4, I was in, I think,
Mm,
P7 because we're about 4 years apart, maybe. We're not sure of the gaps there,
mm,
but she was in
mm,
a class below me and she was bullied.
mm.
So she came to tell me how she was
Oh.
bullied. Yeah. And this
Mm.
girl was pushing her around. Ha, 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 ha. I
The big
organized
sister
my
in you.
crew. I organized my crew and we went. We
Mm,
didn't beat the girl, but I think just
mm,
her seeing these older girls
yeah,
coming and telling her,
yeah.
do not ever,
Ever,
ever
yeah. I think from that
bully
day, your
her
sister was protected forever. She's like, don't
forever.
touch that girl.
So yeah, I
Lovely.
think no, but by the way, bullies are not good, and we need to teach our children
Mm,
to also stand up for themselves. Yeah,
yeah, true,
bullies are
true.
not good. And Bambi, they bully not that they really know what they are doing, but maybe I don't know, maybe background at home. I really don't know.
It's trauma.
But
It's a trauma response, I believe.
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
because there's a girl I went to school with, and I've shared this before. She was those people who bullied us a lot, like in school. And I remember in 2020 we had like a group chat where like all the OGs and all, like we were all talking about like back in the day, and everyone had always everyone was like, man, you really bullied us, you really did this. And she was going through that phase where she was like seeing a psychologist and stuff, and she was sharing how her mom used to bully her at home, and
mm.
she was the first person who taught her how to bully. Like because of that, she became the bully at school. So
Oh
now she was in
no.
her adult life, and people are like telling her, man, you weren't that good to us. And she's telling them, man, I was also a victim. So she said her psychiatrist, because she was going through some mental health problems, told her to stay away from her mom for some time, because even in her adulthood, her mom was still bullying her. So that's these days when I
Sorry.
see a bully, I'm like, this one, someone at home, probably someone, your siblings or someone has been bullying you somewhere.
Yeah.
So
That's so
yeah,
sad.
but
And Resty, when you talk of bullying, allow me apologize on behalf of
mm,
our OGs for the
mm,
times you were bullied. Because your first story, I tried to reflect. I was with you for just a year, but I tried to
mm.
remember, and I could remember honestly some snippets, yeah, that you were mentioning.
Mm,
And please, on behalf of those that may not speak up, can come to you to apologize.
mm.
Forgive us, forgive them, and
Yeah,
I hope that this
thanks.
could speak to
That
them.
means a lot. But
Yeah.
you see, actually, that's why I wanted to ask you, because my perspective of Hillside, I'll say the name. My perspective of Hillside, like my experience started out really good. We had friends who were all like, chilling and everything. And out of the blue, like
Everything
when I try
changed.
to look back, I try to compress like those memories. I'm like, I don't think I want to go through these memories again. But then I remember when I joined the school, it was just to go. Then next year you leave, because I wanted to go
Yeah.
to Chitende, I think Marcos and then Chitende. My mom like, this is the only school that can take you right now. It's been a long time. Just go, then we'll remove you. And I remember after the first time, when we made friends, like we all used to hang together and everything. I just said, you know what? This is it. Like, this is my school. I told my mom, Mommy, I don't want to leave. This is
Okay.
the best of the school. So my mom was like, okay, cool. She seems happy. And then the second time, I was like, what's happening? At that time, my mom had already taken it off the table of training. But I reached a point where I couldn't share what was happening. But I'm always keen to find out what other people's experiences of the school were.
Yeah.
Because for me, it really, like, when I was done, I was like, history, I don't want to know. But also, like you said, like it means a lot for you to say like you apologize in behalf of everyone. But for me, mostly, I had to reach a point. I was like, I have to forgive.
Yeah.
Forgive, even if no one is going to come up and say that. But in many cases, there are people who I would tell, man, this was like that. For like, really, you were bullied. I'm like, how could you not like see what was happening to me?
Yeah.
Even people who were close to me, they would just be like, now, that was nothing. I'm like, that was a huge emotional toll. So thank you for listening and for apologizing. It says so much about your character. I hope people can recognize this in the talking. But what was your experience like in that school? Because for
Okay.
me, I would like to see it from someone else's lens. How was
Perspective.
it for you?
Okay. So let me just finish. So I finished primary. I go
Mhm.
to my
Mhm.
4 years. I did them in St. Joseph's in Zambia.
Mhm.
It was a
Mhm.
single girls school.
Yeah.
Very, very, very nice school. I actually
Mm.
regret leaving. Yet while
Mm.
I was there, I was tired. I was like, after Form 4,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That's
not
what
coming
always
back here.
happens. Yeah. That's what always happens.
But it was such a nice school, and from there is
Mm.
where I used to love reading, and but not as much. But from that school is where my
Mm.
love for books and reading,
Mm.
especially literature, came to play. I
Mm.
have a
Mm.
teacher. She passed away. I got to learn. I wish she was still alive and I could go and meet her, but she
Mm.
passed away, Mrs. Colette. and she loved me. She would be, because she saw my love for reading and the books, she would be, Brenda, you read for the school. First take the class through that chapter. I'll come. So she first goes back to the
Wow.
staff room, whatever. And me, I'm taking the class through the chapter, and she used to trust me that I could
Wow.
at least, read the book. And from that time, when I was like,
That's
this
so
is such an
affirming, yeah?
interesting, this is such a nice
Yeah, that's
subject.
so
Like, I love
affirming.
it. I love all these books, Gulliver's Travels, Oliver Twist. I love them. And then later in Form 4, I meet another teacher. She was called Sister Leon, and she showed me about poetry and plays. Ooh, I was like, I'm in the right place.
Wow.
I'm in the
Why did
right
you do
space.
political science again?
It was just like a course unit. So yeah.
Like,
But
why?
and at that time,
To
Rusty,
be
imagine
like,
I told
a
myself I
literature.
really want to be a literature teacher. Like, I told myself I really want to
Yeah,
be a
you
literature
would.
teacher.
Like, I see you doing that because
I
your
think I
passion is like
still
up
will.
there.
I think I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah,
just,
this
how
world is
our
possible.
teachers are paid here and stuff like that. Maybe that's why I dropped off later. But I like that affirmed me. So in Form 5, I think Hillside was one of the schools that was booming at the time, and
And
our
in his,
parents just keep
yeah.
sharing. So that, I think that's why I ended up there, really. Also maybe because my
Yeah.
siblings before were there.
Oh,
And
okay.
for me, when I reached, it was just a whole culture shock. Like, from the, unlike you, the first week I just told my mom, I cannot be
No,
in this
even me, like I
school.
couldn't, but for some reason I liked the chaos.
No,
Like
it
it
was too
was so
chaotic.
shocking. Yeah, I understand. Like you come from a really like calm. For
Yeah.
me, it was different. First of all, I'm a person who likes sitting at the front because I know my attention can go off. I went and sat at the front. I remember I was in the Let Berry seated at the front together. In the real front class. Next thing I know, that child is coming, standing in the middle with a microphone. I'm like, what's
What
happening here? Why are we like 600
you have
people in
a
the class?
sound
And why?
system. I was
Yes.
confused.
I
I
was
was
like,
so
why are the people in the
confused.
front not really the people at the front? The people in the middle who are like their seats like as if they used to book them in the
Because you
in the
had
middle
to
of the row.
balance. The class was
Yeah.
so big. And then when
Yeah,
you go
it
to
was
the
shocking for
economics
me.
class, it
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
I hope things have gotten better in that school, by the way.
Yeah.
But
Me
for me,
too.
it was a whole culture shock. I'm from a school of just only girls. Girls are neat, organized. Your
I was
desk is
also
your
from girls'
desk.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your desk is your desk. The class
Yeah.
is like 30 students maximum.
Mm,
The teacher knows you
mm.
by name. So from
Yeah.
that order to this culture shock, I just knew in my gut that I couldn't make it here. And I think from then I held back. I struggled. I honestly struggled. I tried. I used to like discussing in class. But my hand
Yeah.
was never seen in that class.
Yeah.
So, and because also it was now mixed, I struggled. Honestly, I struggled, and my close friends know I struggled in Hillside. But I had to push and see that at least let me do
Persevere.
my best. It's just 2 years. Let me push. My favorite class on the other side was literature. Because what, like
Yeah. I
20?
remember you were thriving.
No, I used to look forward to our literature classes because we're
I
just like
really, that's
10,
one of my
20.
biggest regrets, dropping out of that class. I didn't even
Yeah.
give it a chance. For some reason, I wanted to be in like the Kabuyo, but then I'm like, this class should have really calmed me down. You guys used to really like it because you guys had like a whole,
Were neat,
family.
were
Yeah, you
small,
were
neat,
neat. Yeah,
tight, yeah. And
yeah.
our teachers were so nice. I remember Mr. Charlie Gonza, and there was a lady
Mm.
called Miss Doreen, who I later saw, I think, writes in Monitor.
Ah,
But
interesting.
yeah, you remember how she used to carry herself with all these poise when she
Most literature, by the way, why do literature teachers do that? They
I
always
think
have that thing.
the books just push you to be in a certain character, and then it's such a lovely subject. So yeah, I really flourished in the literature class. I think it's the only paper I would get like a B or an A. The rest, I really didn't know what I was doing. And as fate had it, and I wasn't bullied, Resty. For me, it was just the only thing I remember that happened to me that was really bad was I was robbed, like my stuff, grab, money. There's the time I fell sick in the sick bay. Anyway, let's leave the school bit alone. But I think there was a lot of theft and so many cultural things there that
Yeah,
I didn't, that I didn't resonate with. And after 1 year, I just left that school. and went to where I finished my Form 6, which is St. Peter's Nalia. And I loved it there. At least now I was back to composure and structured. My desk is my desk. I knew I was going to sit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in there, Resty, as we draw to the books, because in Form 5 and Form 6, you have just 2 years. So the books you learn are the books you will be examined on. And I think every school, I don't know how it is these days, but a school selects the books that class will, learn.
Yeah.
So it was so unfortunate for me that in Hillside, different books were selected. And when I came this side in Form 6, those were not the same books. But remember, at the end of it all, you're going to be examined. So when they explained that to me, I was like, now I've lost one whole year. Will I catch up the other? So the literature teacher again, oh my God, I forget his name. But he was a gentleman. He told me, you know what, Brenda? You can self-teach yourself. You can do tutoring at the end of, and because I know these books, it's just unfortunate that we're not doing them in this school. So you can do the Form 6 books, then the Form 5 books, we can go through them together. I was like, perfect. So I carried my books, my Form 5 books. I just, kept rehearsing with him and him taking me through, which was good. And then the Form 6 books. Honestly, I love literature and the books. There's some books that I'll never forget. There's a book called Lysistrata. I don't know if there's kids are still learning it, but it was such an adult book that what the women did, let me tell you, what the women did is they wanted to revenge to their husbands for not, I think, contributing at home, for always going out and drinking and not supporting in the home and things. So one woman called Lysistrata collected all the women in the community and said, we are not going to give the man the damn diggity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we don't give them for like a month, and what? We are going to, starve them so that they can do these things and provide. And it worked. And the women in the community came and thanked her and said, I managed to hold for 1 month. I know, it was so funny. It was so funny.
Interesting. Wow.
But that's how literature is, and the books.
Yeah,
there.
and now that you're saying it's like, I think I've always had an interest for books. Like from my primary, like you said, the culture and the environment that you're in can really set the space for your love for books. I remember in my primary school, we used to have a day to go, because I was in like a traditional girls' school, those Saint, like the ones built by missionaries and stuff. It was a very traditional school. We had a library. We would go. Even up now, I have fond memories of that. Like I loved reading. I loved looking at my lips. Like we used to do poetry, and then we'd read books and then turn them into acts. And I was like really good at acting. Like it was really amazing how that was. But then when I went into a secondary school, we didn't have a library. The first school I went to, we didn't have a library. So my interest was going, but I still had that love for stories. So what I would do is, in my literature class, I would get my friends, like people like you, and I asked them to tell me like the story of the book, because we had like, what's his name, Romeo and Juliet and all those things. I'd just be like, tell me the story. And then I would argue back like, okay, why did they do this? So that I can be prepared for the exam. And I used to perform really well in literature.
I feel like I've got like a deja vu. I feel like you've ever asked me to do that for you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then when I went into in my last year of high school in S4, I went to Nalia. And when I was in Nalia, like there it was just books, no library.
Yeah.
There, I don't think I did literature. I don't remember being in literature, because in S4 you could drop it. But I still have that, when you love something. And so in HSC I was like, hell D, yes, I'm going to do literature. But the culture I was in, the environment in Hillside, for a person like me, structure works for me. Like, few people in class, when there's a teacher who is watching me, and because I'm very like hyperactive. So when I got into that class and compared it to the other class where the teacher was not looking at me, I was like, maybe I should just do, because people like in that school, the structure was not there. Like you could just join this class, like you join your parents, I've told you study this, the next thing you know, your friends are telling you, you just quit, that one is hard, study this. So I literally dropped because of peer pressure, because for us in literature, you have classes like almost every week.
Yeah.
I was like, let me go in entrepreneurship where there's not that many classes. So up to now, I do believe my reading culture, which I have picked up now because of my husband. Like now, I can really bury myself in a book, and I'm very excited about it. Like, and now that you're talking about this, when I remember all those books that we used to do, things fall apart. I'm like, I wish I had this love for them when I was a child, and that's what draws me so much to the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
because I do understand how it's very easy for a child to lose an interest in a book. It just takes one school to go to, one teacher who is going to take them off. Like you said, most people I know, even Oprah. What's this other lady? Oprah's friend, the lady who was older. She's a big deal. She used to be a
Her,
poet. She
her
she
best
passed
friend?
on.
Oh,
No,
Maya
not her best
Angelou.
friend.
Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou also always speaks about her teacher, how her teacher is the one that helped her to get
Yeah.
into like that. So it's very important not
Even
only at
Viola
home.
Davis. Yeah.
Yeah, Viola Davis as well. She said that at home, if your parent is really giving you this love for books and show, like for instance, I can imagine how your kids love books because you can't live in a house. My husband has managed to influence me, like people
Yeah.
come here and they're like, these books probably are all for Mark. I'm like, trust me, I have quite a number of books there because the environment he has set is reading is everything, and that's why I'm like, your work, like it's like everyone needs to really like just go and see what Brenna is doing because that our children really need this kind of experience. To be honest, I lost
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
I'm trying to catch it right now, but I really wish. What's her name? This Nigerian lady. But when I'm talking, I forget people's names. What's her name? This
Oh.
Nigerian other writer, the Nigerian lady who is she never she
Chin, yeah. Chimamanda. Is it Chimanda? Chimamanda.
Chimamanda, yes.
Chimamanda.
Chimamanda is someone who's poetry and like I love what she writes. And she always talks about this. She was like in books she buried herself. Like she was introduced to when she talks about books, you're like, oh my god, I need to read because she's like she read about this thing that in America people used to eat. And she every time like she'll
Ate
talk
it.
about like she exactly. And when I hear that, I see how our minds can really grow. Like even as a young person, as an adult right now, I've read so many books where when I'm reading it, I am in that story. It
Yeah.
introduces me, like it takes me out of the space that I'm in, especially if I loved reading in school, it could have really helped me when I was going through what I was going through in high school because I could have disappeared into,
Yeah.
actually, I did disappear into my history. I did like Marie Antoinette and all those guys. Like I used to excel in history. I don't know if you remember. Like I even used to discuss for people history. Like everything
Yeah.
in the history book was in my head because of the stories that were being told. I kind of used to disappear when I would be reading about other people's stories and all that stuff. So please
Okay.
let's hear about this passion of yours because it's so amazing. Like I'm like every time I look at you post something, I'm like, I wish I had this kind of passion for books.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and thank you, Resty. I resonate with you that every school should have a library, an
Mm,
active library. And our schools at that time used to have really academic books. Even if you look for any side interesting
mm,
book. So most people would actually
mm,
come to the literature section and read Romeo and Juliet and books like that.
mm,
But
mm,
also
mm.
remember my dad played a big role in my love. He used to buy, if you mentioned any book, that guy would buy it. He's
Wow.
like, is it needed at school? Even if it wasn't needed at school,
Mm,
he will buy it for you. And that one
mm,
I can
mm.
attest, and honestly I thank him for. And
Yeah. Wow.
he played a very, big role in that. And when I
Mm,
finished, school, because I usually say it was a silent love, it wasn't
mm,
forced on us by our parents. It's something that I
mm,
think my teachers helped me love. And when you
mm,
talk about teachers can be a big influence in your child's love for reading, it's really true.
mm,
So they can
mm,
either grow it or, break it. I was speaking
mm,
to a child and we're trying to introduce, spelling bee to them. I said, yeah, I don't like spelling bee. It's like, why? Why don't you like spelling bee? I'm going to give you the easy
mm,
words so they can win and love it. It's
mm,
like my teacher Oba was doing what, and
mm.
the teacher
They
slapped.
beat you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
from that day, he didn't like the spelling bee activities, anything spelling bee,
Mm,
didn't like it. And I felt,
true.
that, the people that influence you can break your love for reading.
Yeah.
But
That's very
because I
true.
went through that journey, And also my elder sister did literature. So
Mm,
I think when we started now, we're older, fast forward,
mm,
we used to talk about reading. And remember, she lives in London, where these people
mm.
in the Western world throw books, like when they are done, not throw, but they put them out to
Yes,
the
they put them on the
trash
street.
on the
Yeah,
streets,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They put
And
them.
for her,
Yeah,
she would
yeah.
collect the books and read with
Yes.
her kids and also send to me. So we had books. When
Mm,
she's sending Obabu clothes, she throws in books for us as well. So my kids
mm,
had books and would
mm,
read, and we started that whole routine of bedtime reading, or even like on the weekends you get some time read, and they
mm,
loved it. So I think one time she came and she had come with books. I'm like, oh my god, we have so many books, fresh collection, we called it.
mm,
So I was super excited. And the time she came, I think I was giving birth to my second baby. So we spent a lot of time together in my parents'
mm,
house.
mm,
And we just shared our journey. She told me how, these people put books away, how books are so affordable there, how it's a given in their culture, that side, that,
yeah.
we're reading books, it's a norm, they are
Reading.
available, books
Mm,
are fun.
mm,
Because I think when I was little, I didn't have a chance to read the fun kind of stories that I had
mm,
some
mm.
book I was reading today, like the fun kind of stories. We're really
Yeah.
reading academic books. So she says,
Yes, and
even
that
me
may
when
takes away your love for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to, yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, Banange, my children are enjoying these books.
Mm,
And
mm,
in there, we saw the gap. Because I tried to
mm.
ask some of my friends, firstly, got married earlier than most of my peers. But
I
those
know.
that had children, I asked them, are
Mm,
you reading? How are you reading? So we'd share books. And I realized that not very many parents were intentional. And it's something they were
mm,
packing for school and their children when they go to
mm,
school. I said,
mm,
they may read, but they may not get to learn these fun stories that will allure them to have a lifelong reading
mm,
culture.
mm. Yeah.
So I
Mm,
started with my immediate family, then started with my friends, but then the books were not as available. So I would share the ones I had, the ones that my sister would bring, and we have
mm,
read and finished, we'll share.
mm,
Then it grew and said,
mm,
but what if we actually source these books and any other interesting learning material for these little children and maybe
mm.
subsidize, sell them, and then now we'll encourage parents to build the reading
To
culture in
buy
their
them. Yeah.
children. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reception we got, so we co-started the business, Lighting Bulbs
Mm,
Edutainment,
mm,
with my sister
mm,
Evas.
mm.
She's a silent partner, but she really supports the business quite a lot.
Yeah.
And we then later came to, we were before in the background before we could go on social media, but that digital
Mm,
space is growing and making very big moves. So
yeah.
we made an intentional, purpose to put ourselves online. If you look at how
Mm.
we started and now, I think this year is where we're a bit more intentional in posting a lot of content.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like literally every time on my time, I'm like lighting
Lighting,
bulbs.
but
I'm so
yeah,
happy when they do that because I see you're very engaged now, and it's so
yeah,
easy for you because when you're talking, someone can really see the passion. Like it's
yeah.
not just selling; you're actually out there to solve a problem.
To solve a problem, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also because reading is not a very common thing, I would want to say common thing among,
Mm.
I don't want to stereotype it, but I
Our
want to say among
culture. Just say it. It
our
is not.
culture.
It is not. You know how many friends I have at this age who rest to summarize the book and tell us what
Yeah,
happened.
it's not such a fun
Yeah,
culture. And I remember
yeah.
at work, there's
Mm.
a gentleman who usually sends us Monday emails, like they are so long. And one time he was doing like a round in office, and then someone asked him, "But your emails, they're really nice, Resty. They are encouraging. Is you're sharing tips, learnings,
That's why
very
blog talk
nice."
can be like, just don't start a blog. In Ghana, you don't like people don't like to read, but there are actually those who do love reading.
So me, I was
But
reading
sometimes
them
they'll be
and
like, it's
loved
too
his
long.
content, but guys were like,
Wow.
ah, ah. So they shared with
Make
him,
a
and the guy,
YouTube video.
and he said, "You know that famous saying, like this is how we answered them. You know that saying of if you want to hide something from an African, put it in
Uh-huh.
writing or
Put it
put it
in
in a
writing.
book.
Yes,
For me,
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
when I really dropped the pen and I was like, by the way, we need to change the
We
narrative.
need to, and it
Yeah,
starts with the little ones. If us,
yeah.
we are already a dead gone
We
society,
need,
man.
and it's hard to
Yeah.
build a reading
Mm,
culture in an adult compared to the
it
child.
is. It
Yeah,
is
and we
true.
believe that every child deserves that chance. Like, give it to them.
Mm,
Then let them be the ones to
mm.
decide, but give them that
Very
skill.
true.
Yeah.
Very,
As an
very true.
adult, it's hard for newspapers. We get
Mm,
newspapers here, but people only want to read the heading. And if it's like a short paragraph, I will, dive deeper. But how many people read the
yeah.
newspaper back to back? Just,
People
there
are
are
like,
simple.
man, just make some short clip on Instagram and I will follow your
I'll get the
news.
message. And
Yeah,
now,
and
if even on
that's how even
Instagram,
yeah, on Instagram these days I was reading an article, I think for my master's thesis, and they were talking about like these days, first of all, like political sciences. That's why it's really hard all over the world with regards to voting. People don't want to sit down and read like real like articles about why they should vote or why they should vote this specific person. So these days, if you're a politician, if you're not on social media and you're just literally you just come in 5 minutes and tell someone like Cardi B, whatever it is, tell them to vote this person, and this is why. Like, just get a whole book and summarize it, and in there you've picked out just a few things that support you. But guess what? The really, I don't want to call it smart because even those who read the content are smart, but a really person who reads to make a decision on voting is not going to just vote you just like that because they will take their time to read about you.
yeah,
What is it like you're saying? And this is a problem in Uganda. It's a very big problem. We are being lied
it's
to
a
by
real
politicians who just come and just tell us, yes, in 1920, the fight
tyranny.
went. When I went to Europe, people, in the village, they go and say, people in Bungereza, in whatever, this is how they live their lives. And yet you have your phone which can actually help you to read about
The
this stuff and make that and
information.
realize that it's
Yeah.
true. So this this reading culture affects every aspect of our lives that people just don't want to understand. Like we are being lied to.
But being lied to, we don't,
Yeah.
want it is even on Instagram. If you have a very long caption, you've lost the client or
Mm,
you've lost
eh,
lost you've lost the viewer.
more.
But Resty, let me tell you, so
Mm,
another culture shocker. So I think 2 years ago, I had my graduation in London.
mm,
And
mm,
because even when you're traveling, let's say you're traveling by
mm,
air, let me say, or
mm,
anyway, in the
mm,
Western country, I think that people will relate. If you
mm.
cannot read, you will get lost. If you cannot read, they will tell you exit is here. Now you're going as an entry. Like you will get lost.
Ask
And,
me, ask me. I got lost. I used to look for my class on Google Maps first of
and it's
all.
written up there. They have directed. Everything is so written. Yeah.
Yeah, because us
And
in Uganda, it's like go to the mango tree, full stop, don't say no more. But me, you give me a map and I'm like, just tell me where it is. Like I used to get lost a lot, and then
yeah.
later on, after you've gotten lost, you find like you literally walk to someone and be like, "Hi, I'm looking for the information." This and the person just points to the place where you're literally standing, and you're like,
Yeah.
"I just didn't read
You
the word
didn't
which was
read.
right up there." You're right. You're
And the
right. Yeah.
instructions are everywhere. In fact, my sister
Yeah.
told me, Brenda, just read. You'll get to where you're going. So for me, I spent a
Yeah.
month, but I
Mm.
was reading everywhere I was going. Even just at the airport, if you don't read your
Wow.
terminals and you will get
Mm.
lost. You will get
True,
lost.
true, true,
So
true,
reading is very important to even the smallest thing as transport. And if
true.
we teach our
That's very
children
true.
very early
They'll
and
be
them to
independent as
yeah,
well.
they'll be very independent. They'll be very intentional with
Mm.
building that culture for themselves even at an older age. And guess what? They will pass it on to the
Mm.
next generation. So it has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect.
True,
And
true,
that is
true,
why
true.
with lighting bulbs, we really focus on 0 to 12 years because that's where you
Mm.
can
The
capture.
most, yeah.
Yeah, that's the most
The
that's where you can
interest, yeah.
capture that interest and that's when you can build
Mm.
that reading culture. After
Mm.
12, we believe that you can go on
Mm.
through
Mm.
your puberty and to your adulthood with that
Mm.
love for reading. Yeah, so that's where
Mm.
we focus 0 to 12 years. And
Mm.
and also why we call it lighting bulbs is as you read, you get those light bulb moments. There are times when you're reading and you just
Mm.
have to pull out your notebook and say, this is saved for
Great. I
later.
have paper clips everywhere. I have to
Or you're
focus everywhere.
highlighting. You're
Yes.
highlighting
Yeah.
something.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I need this. Like, I need to use this in a
Y-
conversation somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
So that's
that's
why we call
quite
it lighting bulbs,
I'd
edutainment.
never known that. I never knew that. Now it makes sense. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. Before we can talk maybe a little bit more about reading, I wanted you shared with me something last year, was it, about how you started this thing at your workplace. About
Okay.
yes, please share about this. This was very inspiring.
The one of the reading.
Yeah, where you'd share books, but also about mental health and stuff like this.
Okay. So in my workplace, I've been here for 9 years,
Mm,
and it's such a very good employer, and an employer
mm,
that gives you space to grow, but also build a community.
mm,
We,
mm,
how can I put it? We have an in-house Catalyst Academy, most recently for women, in the
mm,
corporate space, just to empower
mm,
women and help you learn or unlearn things that maybe you grew up thinking cultural, this is how we do things, but sometimes those cultural
mm,
things do not
mm,
support you in the corporate space. So it's a
mm,
it's a Catalyst Academy that empowers women to grow and
mm,
thrive in their careers.
mm,
So being a pioneer in one of the Catalyst Academies,
mm,
we went through it, and just to keep us going, a suggestion was put on the table. How do we keep our momentum? How do we keep holding each other accountable? Because women, sometimes you can
mm,
divert and now lose the mulamwa. So we had to keep,
mm.
how do you translate? Lose the main point of why we are
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
we set up a book club in there.
Mm,
Mm? And in that book club, it so happened, you vote who are the leaders, and it so happens that, I'm a leader now in the book club in-house. And for
duh.
me, it's
Are you
something that I do.
surprised?
But imagine the people that were voting me are people that have also seen me on the spaces and the things that I do for children,
Mm,
and just said, we
mm,
just need to
mm.
tap on your energy as well in here.
Yeah,
And I can say
true.
it's doing well. I don't know if
Mm.
I've answered you. If you could remind me, Resty,
I
about the
think
mental.
before this started, we spoke in 2022. There's a time when I called you and you were telling me about how, like, at work, you wanted to start something like this. Actually, you mentioned this like way before. I'm surprised that you're saying that it's already happening already. But I remember you talked about something like how, like, when you're at work as women, you can. We talked about how expensive books can be, and you're like, we can get books that can help us with mental health and maybe with family and stuff, and spread them around ourselves. And how you and your friends had started a community where you'd meet up. I think I don't know if you remember this.
Okay, I've now remembered.
Yeah.
So that was
Mm.
some time back, and we had,
Mm.
in my different role, were just about maybe 6 ladies who
Mm.
came together at that time. I had, my supervisor put us together to
Mm.
just have this community of us ladies, and how we can
Mm.
handhold each other. And
Mm.
one way of handholding each other was learning from the books. So the books that we're
Mm.
reading were like self-help books. I remember
Mm.
our first book was Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office.
Mm.
And that book helped unpack so many things that we thought were okay,
Yeah.
and realize they're actually not
Mm.
okay. They're actually not okay to carry in your
Mm.
corporate space. And in that space,
Wow.
because we grew this connection, it was a space.
Mm.
Still today, it's our space where you can help break a bit of like, come on the chat and say, guys, I'm struggling with this, and you'll know that you have a sisterhood
Mm.
that will hold you not to
Mm.
sleep and fall off, the
Mm.
wagon. But also,
Mm.
if you're struggling mentally, maybe
Mm.
work is getting overwhelming. How do I
Mm.
juggle? Because that's something
Mm.
that also women struggle with. And research has
Mm.
shown that as you go up the ladder in most career spaces, the women start reducing because they are
Mm.
juggling quite a
Too
bit.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you have a community of women that say,
Mm.
you go, we see you, we are cheering you on, you go. Imagine how much it can do for
Mm.
you as a person.
So
Imagine
in
if
an
we do
office space
in an
mostly.
office space.
Mm.
You imagine a child,
Mm.
you're going to watch your kid's sports day, and you're at the end and you're cheering, hey, come on, come on. That
Yeah.
child is
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
sprint. is going to spread because they
mm,
see you cheering. If we could do this for the women, and that's why I love your space, Resty, because the women we need to support each other. We need to
true.
cheer each other, and not to take off that we don't need the men. We definitely, I think it was Pumla who mentioned that we do need the men in this space, but we need to also cheer ourselves because we understand what we are going through.
We are going through.
Yeah,
That's true.
we understand the things that we are juggling. And if a woman can just take one, push her, encourage her, it honestly takes nothing away from you because there's so much oxygen for us. There's so much oxygen for all of us to breathe.
And we are better together. We are
Much
better
better.
together.
Yeah. So
Because
that's
it's
the
very
space.
easy to go into. It's very easy to go. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. That thing inspired me so much. Like I wrote it down. I was like, okay, she center. I'll get back to Brendah in the future when the website is up because I found that quite inspiring. Because see the structure. You know, in school they used to teach us, political structure. The government most certainly can't control the whole country.
No.
If you do not have these small structures, like it starts from LC, your local council, councillors, Vichy, LC, like these guys help you to carry a lot. And by the time you get to this top part to be a president, you have had these people down who have come up, uplifting you. Because remember, when you get into the working space, you've come from, depending on what your life has been like. You might be single, just like you might be a young girl in your young adult life who has gotten married. Now you have changed. Like your friends at that time may not understand what you're going through because you're now juggling family life. What now? In addition to that, you're working uptown. You're doing this. Like you have all these things you're going through, and in many cases, the people at work might be the ones who might understand what you're going through. And in addition to that, your office space, if they create this environment, like you said, which I'm very glad, like I'm very happy that you guys have something like this. If the company recognizes that we need to support these women to find a solution, they produce more, like they do much better. If you're helping me with what I'm going through and you're helping me to find a community where I can come and talk and be like, guys, this week has been tough. Then if a woman maybe who is in that space, they all come behind me and say, okay, this week let's support you. Or like they say, collective action is always a good thing. Because if in that space there is my leader, then my leader is going to know why I'm not giving 100% this week. Because maybe my child is sick or I'm going through something particular in my relationship or something like that. But if then that doesn't exist, imagine if that doesn't exist. First of all, you're working like up country. How are you going to make someone realize like the stress that you're having? Maybe for them, their whole family is back home, they have their husband and everything. But for you, if you go and let them know, man, this is what I'm going through this week, then they could even like it's easy for them to say, okay, you know what, let's maybe transfer her, or maybe let's make a decision that's tailored to what she is going through as a person, because we know that all this like this community, this collective action has come and vouched for her. So I'm very happy that you guys are doing something like this. So maybe before we finish, you can share about country life, like working away from family, because I know that this is something that you shared in the blog post that you wrote on my blog. So please share about this and let us know how women who are going through this can juggle this kind of life.
Okay. I was hoping you'd not ask me, but I think I've also thought about it and saying, I think I need to encourage another woman who could be in my same position and, is working up country and they have literally like 80% of my family, 80, like 90% of my family in Kampala, and I'm not in Kampala. But also, I think it has been a really journey and you have to put in place things that help you manage this kind of situation. First, I honestly believe I was born in the right time where technology manifested.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have technology, I cannot even imagine how I would do it. Yeah. So there are nights, I think were nights where I have my tab at home and then me on the phone with my children. I have books here, they have books there. And we have our rounds. So today it's Izzy's time to read. He'll read to all of us and I'll be on the call and listening. Like we have our timetable. Tomorrow will be Zaki's turn to picture read and we'll encourage him in that space. Another time it will
Wow.
be mommy's turn to read, and I'll pull out my book and turn and show them. Like, you have to make it work. So that's
Wow.
how
Yeah.
that's how I've tried to keep our reading culture so that we don't lose momentum in there. And they now look forward to it. They know. But also, I sat down with them and explained to them the changes that were going to happen and asked them that this is something we both love. Can we keep doing it? And they said, yeah, we can. How will we be doing it? Show me. So I had to tell them about the tab, and I set that bit up for them. So they now know how to use the tab and how we can read online. So I think somewhere where there is,
Wow.
you have to be creative.
Yeah,
Because
that's a
another
very
person would have said,
innovative
you know
way.
what? Let me leave this
Yeah.
thing. I will catch up when I can catch up. But you're losing time in there. And yet the career has to grow.
That's
And
very true.
the career has to grow. Sometimes I think I listened to so many people, maybe Flavia. Flavia mentioned sometime, you ask for things. She said she was asking God for twins, and he literally answered her and gave her twins. So sometimes we ask God for things like this. We say, oh God, maybe I want a better financial, I want a better paying job, or I want this career move, I want to be in this position. But when God answers and says, but it has to be up country, then now you're like, okay, now maybe make it. So sometimes God answers in different ways, not the way we would want them. But now that he has answered, what are you doing
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
waiting for the
You have to
next
learn how
big
to pivot,
thing?
like to know exactly what can I do with what I've been given right
Yeah,
now.
what I've been given. So yes, and support
Wow.
system, Resty, you can't do it alone. You cannot. You cannot do it alone. So you have to sit back and regroup. I have a very supportive partner, and before I even apply for these jobs, I sit with him and say, there is this job. Chances are high I'll be up country. How do you see it working? Do you see how do we manage? So you sit down, look at the pros, look at the cons. What can you manage? What can't I manage? How will we make it work? That was the first thing before I submitted my CV. And when we saw we could work with the pros more, then I went for it and gave it 100%. And that's why I am here. But hopefully soon I will be back with my family, but to be very intentional, even to give back to the support. So the support I have, and maybe just to tell you how God works in mysterious ways. We grew up in Nansana. I'm Angela from Nansana for like the 30 years of my life, And most recently, my parents moved 15 minutes away from my home.
Wow.
15 minutes
divine.
away.
Wow.
And
Oh
at
my
that
God,
time,
there's no better babysitter like a mom and dad,
at that time, it
grandparents.
didn't make sense for us. We were super excited that they are coming closer and they have moved away from, Nansana. But see how God aligns his things. That on Friday, my mom just says, Brenda, can I take the children? And I'm like, please take them, because I know and I'm very comfortable that there's a gap that she's feeling for me. There's a gap my dad is feeling for me. Right now, they've just sent me a video. They're at a farm. They're in the farm with cows and enjoy.
And kids love
Yeah.
grandparents. Yeah.
So for me,
Are your parents retired or your mom is still working and
they are
entrepreneur?
retired, but active retired people. They're active retired people. Yeah.
Okay.
They're still doing things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, the
Wow.
support system, and maybe one thing I need to add about support system. Yes, you can have all the support, but you also need to give back to your support. Don't just leave them. If it's your friend supporting you, remember them on their birthday. Remember to give them where you can. If it's my parents,
Don't
I
take
don't
them
take
for
them for
granted.
granted. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't. I will
True.
do mom dates with my mom. I do dad dates with my dad. Like when I go
Show
to
them that you
7.
appreciate.
Yeah, and they feel it. My siblings, my brother helps me a lot. My my in-laws, like I try to be, also supportive to them, so that it's natural.
Wow.
It would say who else would do
Yeah.
it, but we just need to also give back. I think that's one
Yeah.
thing I wanted to add, that give back to your support system, because they do
True.
so much
True.
for me. So for me, I've thrived on support system. I've thrived with systems and people to help me, and I try to go as often as I can, especially the weekends. We don't work on the weekends, so I've
How
also
long have you been
structured.
there now?
I've been in and out of up country for a bit. Because if my career has been 9 years here, I started up country. I did almost 3 years in one role. then went back to Kampala, did another role for 4 years, then came back on another role for now 2 years, I should say, 2 years.
Wow.
So I've been in
And
that
how,
country.
okay, that's so amazing. Before we even leave, I wanted to ask, because we talked about your life, let's talk a little bit about your career. Because, man, you come from loving books. Yeah? You were supposed to be a literature teacher. By the way, you've set it out there into the universe. So we're going to demand these
Yes,
literature classes. On
yes.
YouTube, we better start a YouTube channel teaching
And
us
now
how
you
to
can
read.
be, I think
Yeah.
I am
You
to
can
an
be a teacher.
extent.
You are
I think
exactly.
I
You are a
am.
teacher. Yeah, you are. We need longer videos of you teaching us literature.
Loading,
But
loading.
before we conclude, you can talk about your career, because I know that's something that's also a huge part of you. I see how passionate you're. Like, I read sometimes I'm not people who read. Like, if you caught me at a good time, your long posts that be on LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, Brenda
On
has posted.
LinkedIn.
What's happening? Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
read. So can you tell us a little, because I know there's B2B, there's what and all that stuff. Just tell us a little bit about your career and
Career.
how it is maybe mixing up in your life, like how it's helping you to fulfill this purpose, because you have a lot of things that you're doing as a person.
I know. I have a lot. I may shock myself sometimes. But I think when I finished uni, I didn't want to work like formally, because I'd seen my mom into business. It's like, me, I want to do my business. So I started with my, business, did quite a number of businesses.
I know, double balls.
Double balls. I used to knit balls. Thank you for supporting me. Other people supported my RE brace.
Yeah.
Thank you. I sold juice at some time, at campus, hawking around juice.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I
You
not
remember
know
where my
this?
mom's office was? Had you been to my
Yes.
mom's office?
Oh, yes.
So
I
that
remember that.
building,
Yes, I remember. Yeah. At the
that
center of
building,
one leg, yeah. Yeah.
because I used to go to campus in the evening. So during the day, I'm working with her in her office. Then also she told me, you make juice, move around that skin clinic, sell juice. Then from juice, I advanced. I used to sell also airtime. Then started mobile money. But I wanted to just keep doing businesses. But I think later when I reached catering, I reached cooking level. I'm catering to offices, food. And then one day, Resty, I was in the bank banking my money for food. And my OG, she will never know this, I will not even say her name, walked in the bank. She looked so dope. She looked
I know
so
people in the bank
sweet.
can make you want to work there.
Resty, I just served. I was tired. I was like in chef uniform and stuff. I ran out.
Don't kill me in my hustle.
I ran.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. I remember sitting back that time and telling my sister, my elder sister, and saying, Iva's things are tight. I'm like, what? I explained to her, and I was, and already catering was wearing me down. She's like, you know what, Brenda? Now that you've done this, you first put a pause, try the corporate space. If you feel it, move in that direction. If you don't feel it, you come back here. So I was like, okay. So I applied for a job. I actually started in a bank. So I worked for a bank in a bit. Then this opportunity here in NSSF opened up. And I don't think I've shared this story, But yeah, let me share. Let me give it to you. She sent a podcast.
Yes,
And at that time, I think there were data entry jobs at that time, the one I applied for. And I went in the interview. Already remember, books help you be very eloquent. Like my communication skills, everything was...
Yeah.
I feel, honestly, I don't struggle a lot in oral interviews. So I go in for the interview, gave it my best shot. And as I told you, God and how stars just align in the right time. It so happened at that time that they were looking for, they're called relationship managers, and they had it advertised, but the supervisor at that time, the supervisor said, if you in that group of data guys, if you see some top 3, you send them over. We do an interview as well. Let's see. The stars aligned. The next 2 days, I was called for another interview to meet someone else.
Wow.
To do an interview for relationship manager. Honestly, no Godfather, nothing. And that's how I get the interview
Wow.
and get
Moreover,
that
your
role
first
that
corporate job, you got just most
I
people
go
start
like,
from secretary,
yeah,
assistant,
like,
just
yeah,
intern.
I
Wow,
get that
wow.
role. The flip
Yeah.
on it was it's up country. I was like, you know
Mm,
what? From where I'm from, I'm not turning back. I was like,
mm.
okay, where are
Was
we
this when you're
going?
already married or before?
I think I was planning my wedding because my
Mm,
appointment was 1st June 2015,
mm,
2015, and my wedding was
mm.
scheduled for 31st October 2015. I'll never
Wow,
forget. Yeah,
wow. Because we
yeah.
were really young that time. We're like
Were
in our,
really
our
young. I was
formative
24.
years.
I was 24, yeah.
Young adult years.
So
Wow.
that's how I
That's
came up
really
country.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember the battle was between who takes me, because I'd never been to a sorority, by the way. So
Mm,
I'd never been, I think, past ginger. So it was a
mm,
battle of who takes me, my boyfriend at that time, who's now my husband, or
mm,
my dad.
mm,
I was like,
mm.
let me go with this one who can hustle
Who I'm going
life,
to be with.
who I'm going to be with. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's how I came
wow.
and got into that role, and it was up
Mm,
country, and for me it has been onwards and upwards for me from
mm,
there to where I am right
yeah.
now.
So you're still in that space of relationships and what, yeah?
Yeah,
In the
I'm in that space. I since moved, so from relationship manager, I manage the space here in sorority, and as I shared on my LinkedIn,
mm,
was the memories there, got me.
mm,
Like my life has never
mm,
been the same from the time I started
it
working
does.
up country. Yeah,
Where I
because
worked up country after campus, and my perspective, like even the beginning of She Center, I know it started with me, but it started with the stories of the people that I talked to when I was up country. Because you see life in a whole different, especially if you grew up in Kampala, you're like,
are we in the
what?
same country?
I know,
Are we
like
in the
these
same
things are
country?
happening. How can this be? How can I be of help? So I now I think also I understand like the drive because I'm sure when you go there, the libraries in the villages,
Libraries,
man.
and then there, so I read to children. Like you could find a 7-year-old and they can't read.
Yep,
They can't, maybe
seven,
they can
16
speak
year olds,
English,
they
but they
can't even
can't
say
read.
be like they don't. Yeah, true,
And we're
true.
in the
Yeah, that's
same
true.
country. So for me, something grounded me and said, you know what, I'm here, and that's someone, while I'm in the waiting, what am I doing?
Mm,
What am I doing?
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah,
Mm,
had a bit of its challenges, Rusty, I won't lie. But
mm,
I think for me it was
I
also
know.
learning that okay, it's now not working like
Mm,
this. How better can I do it? How can I perfect it?
mm,
So over the years I have
mm,
also grown in it. And yeah, and I told
mm,
myself I'm going to keep growing. Honestly, I'm going to keep doing
yeah,
my best in my work.
yeah.
And the
Mm,
time when I moved, after 3 years, I moved to Kampala. I was handling corporate
mm,
clients at that time. So I was,
mm.
the top guys, the top guys,
Mm,
in the
mm,
business. And I told myself I will serve them to the best of my ability.
yeah,
I will
yeah.
do my best in this work while I'm here.
Mm,
And
mm,
yeah, and then that time, another, like, it has been in different roles until today,
mm,
Resty, where I am now as an area manager. I
mm.
I I really thank God. I thank God that He saw me,
True,
picked
true.
me,
You
and
are
I
faithful
always,
with the few,
yeah, He saw me,
as
picked me,
they
and I
say.
try,
Yeah.
yeah, I try honestly to do my
Wow.
best with the work, and now
That's
even with
that's
the
good.
teams that I lead, yeah.
Yeah. Before we conclude and you give us your wisdom, your words of wisdom, I just want to, because when I'm listening to your story, it's unfortunate that some people don't have the background and the foundation that you have. Your parents laid a very, very thick foundation for you. And I can see the way you carry yourself, the way you've gone through life. You've always had that structure. Like in What Happened to You, the book, it's not just about, like you said, the bad things. There's also what happened to you. Like, why are you this organized? Why are you like a person who I can trust with a whole area? And it all comes from when you meet someone, there's something about them that will show you this person looks trustworthy. Like this person, even if they don't have the corporate experience they need, the way they carry themselves, the way they are doing the things they do. And you've literally just explained, I don't know if you noticed this, but you've explained from how you grew up, how you felt protected, you felt secure, you felt safe, you felt like you could achieve anything. And I'm guessing when you walked into that interview, you were like, I don't care if I have experience on my CV, I've been selling this and this and this, but I'm moving into corporate. You must have walked in there saying, I'm here to work and I know that I can do it. So it shows that as parents, yeah, we shouldn't neglect these simple things that happen. When you're
Yeah.
raising a child, if you notice they're not confident in how they talk or they're anything like that, you might just be like, yeah, my daughter is shy, but are they really? Maybe they are just covering up some kind of struggle that they are having. Because this is going to affect their whole life moving forward. The partner they choose, how they show up in the world, and how they are seeing the world, as you said, like you just see it as I can do anything and there's nothing that's impossible for me. So I just wanted to point that out because I know people
Yeah.
who are listening could be like, "Eh, man, this girl for us things seems to have gone easy for her." But no, I'm sure it requires hard work
Yeah.
for you to maintain this kind of standard of life because there are other people who are raised the way that you were raised, but they turn out to do something completely different because along the way maybe something happened. So thank you for sharing your story. And before you leave, you could just talk to a lady out there, a woman out there who is listening, and just give them some words, some little words.
But little words. I hope my story
Mm,
really, really, really inspires
it does.
somebody resting.
It does. It
And
will. Yeah.
you know, I'm not too big on social media lately, but
Mm,
if my LinkedIn is open, and
mm,
then our
mm,
business page, lighting bulbs,
mm,
edutainment. I
mm.
think that's where I am,
Yeah.
and maybe TikTok, but for lighting bulbs, yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
parting shots for a lady out there,
Mm,
honestly, God, like I would
mm,
be lying if I can say I've done these things alone on my own. It
mm,
has
mm,
been God. And
mm,
sometimes I just think if you are living life and you don't have Him at the center, how? Like, how are you managing all these challenges? But He keeps
so,
holding me and just affirming me that, better days are coming soon in whatever thing
mm,
that you're going
yeah.
through. So
That's
if you're
so.
struggling with whatever, is it a mental health
Mm,
challenge? Is it a marital challenge? Is it children, raising
mm,
children? Or even just
mm,
reading to your children and you've not failed to
mm,
get, structure, or getting your
mm,
children to love reading, just put it to
mm,
God, eh? Pray to
mm,
Him and we'll be
mm,
intentional. There are times where I say that
mm,
I think I listened to a sermon, or I heard it, oh, God spoke to me, that just told me, you know what, there is power in kneeling down. Eh? That when you're praying, just go down on
humility.
your knees and
Humility.
say,
Yeah.
God, I'm here, down here. I'm your
Mm,
servant. Use me
mm,
as your vessel, to do these things.
mm,
Even as I
mm,
build a reading culture in children and extend it to the community, I feel like I'm doing
mm.
God's work through me. That
Yeah.
we're,
True.
yeah,
True.
that I'm helping
That's
a
why I said
community.
faithful with a few. Like God, that parable of they gave talents,
Yeah,
and the one who
yeah,
had one is like, yeah, I just have this, but you give the same way the person who like God is going to look at you not and say like I gave you five, why don't you have 100? No, if he gave you one, how are you using it? How are you showing up?
yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing that you've been
Yeah,
describing. Yeah,
yeah. And it
yeah,
aligns with my purpose resting.
true.
So
Yeah,
because it
true.
aligns with my purpose, I love it and I'm doing it,
Of
and I know
course,
that it's
yeah.
going to help the next
Many
generation
people.
and the
Yeah,
generation that comes after
true,
that.
true.
And maybe also just on a personal note, for us to be more self-aware, because when you're
Mm,
self-aware, you know what you can take on and what you can't
mm,
take on.
yeah,
I am those
yeah.
people
Don't
rest. Yes,
strain
I'm
yourself. Yeah.
structured, I'm highly
Mm,
organized, but I also
mm,
love meeting myself and sitting
mm.
somewhere. I usually
Having
do
the
it on my
conversation.
birthday. On my
Mm,
birthday, I'm now more intentional that I have
mm,
to give myself some
mm,
hours and just be
mm,
more self-aware and ground me for the next year to
mm,
come, as I also reflect
mm,
on the years that are before. These are things that you really need to be intentional about. There's no
mm,
one coming to
mm,
save you. There's no one coming to tell you
mm,
that, you've had it from me and many other women.
mm,
You try
mm.
and be intentional
Yeah,
and be more self-aware and know what can you
yeah.
give, what energy can you pass on to the people around you or the environment that you're in,
Mm,
what are the things that you
yeah,
can do, then thrive on those.
yeah,
Where do you need
yeah.
help? Ask for that help.
Mm,
Where do you need,
yeah.
so if you don't know it from within,
Mm,
then you'll struggle to make some decisions,
yeah,
some key decisions in your life.
yeah.
Are those good parting
Wow.
shots, Rusty?
They
Will they
are,
help
and I
our
just want to
community?
let you know they are
Mm,
definitely. Thank you
okay,
so much, Brenda. You
you
just
are
don't notice,
welcome.
but how you show up in the world is something that has always inspired me. Because me, I'm like,
Oh,
you know, all over the place, but I like people. I like to see people who are calm because I'm like, man, I need to learn something from this person. And you're one of those people from the time I met you. I've always been like, there's something unique about this girl. Like, she's just so nice to talk to. She's just like those people who just everyone wants to be friends with. Like, she's trustworthy and everything. And I every time I see you winning, I'm always like, yay, go Brenda. So I just want to say thank you so much. I think you've given me a bigger perspective of who you are. Based on, like, I knew a little bit of your life, but it makes so much sense why you are the way you are. And
yeah.
I know that so many people out there will be inspired by this, or maybe to know how to raise their children. Basically, if you have a child who is a person who is like, they're in a certain way, there's a way you can know how to support them and you know
Yeah.
how to be there for them. And I see how you do that for your kids because, man, it seems like you make it seem so, like, so flawless, like, just no hassle.
I
Like,
try.
you just said, yeah. And I think it all comes from, like you said, your faith. You're grounded in your faith. You're grounded in community. You grew up, you have people you're looking up to who have modeled this kind of life that you're living. So for any person out there who is listening, I know you'll be like, I need to meet this girl, Brenda Manang. She sounds like an angel.
Oh, wow. Resty, you're putting the
She
level so
sounds
high.
like
But
an
Resty, I've remembered something. Let me use this chance
yeah,
to also thank the women that are giving freely of their knowledge and of
true.
themselves.
Very true. Yeah,
Yeah, there
I'm
are
very
so many
honored for that.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Mm,
is you. There are women that have
mm,
opened up YouTube channels that are doing, social
mm.
media. I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
drop names, but whichever woman
Mm,
is inspiring you and
mm.
giving their knowledge and wisdom and their
Yeah,
support
yeah.
freely to
Mm.
us to consume and
Yeah,
learn
yeah.
from,
Because others are turning them into
I
classes. So
appreciate
you
you.
can imagine, and you're paying. So we thank you, and you're among those women. So I hope you know that.
I'm
But
glad.
to any person, I like to conclude so that I'm just like, at the end, I don't have to record anything after. But I just want to say, Brenda, thank you, first of all, for making the time. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I am glad that many people are not aware of the impact that they have, but I'm glad that that you're really changing lives. You're not even like sometimes you post something and I'm like, I really need to read more because just by looking at your content, I'm like, I really need to read. And when I have like my children should love this culture. It's like you're inspiring even us, the older people.
Yeah.
So I hope that someone out there listening can understand that it is very, very important the power of a book. Like a book can take you so many places. It can, like, just one book. You can read that one book, even if it's the Bible. It will teach you so much wisdom. If it's a book about, as long as it's a good book, okay. There are some books that says everyone is an author. There are some books that are really not really that like the best.
Yeah.
But if you really find a good book, it's very important for you to see the impact that it can give you. Like, just don't see yourself as reading a book. Just understand that it's opening your mind up to the possibilities of something so far and beyond. And if anyone out there is a parent and an adult also, because the adults who need to read some children's book to start off somewhere, I hope that they can be able to reach out to lighting bulbs and be able to see that, I wish the books that people were throwing on the street were in English because I would have also collected those
Ah,
and brought them
okay.
for you. But unfortunately, they're in German. But I understand that really, like you said, people in the Western culture are really, really keen on teaching their children how to read. So that's I think my conclusion would be, guys, please share this message with any person out there who loves to read or who you want to learn how to read. Like, if you want them to learn how to read, please share this message. And Brenda, thank you once again. I really, really appreciate you, and you inspire me so much. In case you didn't know that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Resty.
Yeah, thank you.
Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is She Center, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.